Hey folks, welcome to Creative Side Podcast. Shane here, along with Kacie, and we don't have a guest today, Kacie.
No, we do not.
And and that's okay because we got some good things to talk about, right?
Yeah, we do. We'll try to keep this afloat as best we can.
Yeah. Well, we'll do it. I mean, we got a lot of things that we have been working on in different aspects of our life, and we got some good ideas for things that are coming up that we're going to be doing. I guess we can talk a little bit about that, those kind of things. And what do you got, Kacie? What's some of the things that you think we were to share and talk about?
For me personally, I've been more intentional on creating a to-do list every night and making sure that I accomplish that to-do list. And it has a lot to do with being a part of this podcast.
Really?
Because we have had so many guests, and a lot of them are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And the specific entrepreneur that really gave me a kick in the gut was Scott Laskowski. And I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. But one of the things he said is, you're either an entrepreneur or you're not. And so for me, when I was, living in Northern Kentucky, I had my nonprofit that I was getting started. And when God moved me to Northern Kentucky, or from Northern Kentucky, I really had a lot of resentment towards God and a lot of disappointment, because I believed that that's where he wanted me to be and that's what he wanted me to do. So when he moved me back down here to Madisonville, I kind of really lost track of that desire to continue with the nonprofit. So I was really, not really sure if I was living in fear. Maybe a little bit I was living in fear, but a lot of it was, I don't want to do anything else if it's not the right timing. So when Scott Laskowski said, you're either an entrepreneur or you're not, that was kind of a kick in the gut for me to say, I really need to be more intentional about the passion that God has given me to help other people get out of poverty. So I've been going through my documents for my nonprofit, and it's a lot of information. So I'm really not sure where God wants me to start, but there's a scripture. I do want to share a scripture. I know we normally don't do this, but I want to share it.
Okay. Absolutely.
Let me find it.
Yeah, that was a good episode with Scott.
It was.
There were some wake up moments, listening to a very, very smart guy.
Yeah. So, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
All right. So this is the scripture, and it's coming from Isaiah 28, 23 through 29. And it says, listen to me now. Oh, and I'm reading from the Message Bible. Listen to me now. Give me your closest attention. Do farmers plow and do nothing but plow? Or harrow and do nothing but harrow? After they prepared the ground, don't they plan? Do they scatter dill and spread cumin? Plant wheat and barley in fields and raspberries along the borders? They know exactly what to do and when to do it. Their God is their teacher. And at the harvest, the delicate herbs and spices, the dill and cumin, are treated delicately. On the other hand, wheat is threshed and milled, but still not easily, endlessly. The farmer knows how to treat each of the grains. He learned it all from God of the angels' army, who knows everything about when and how and where. So for me, it speaks volumes on how I don't have to know every single detail right at that very moment, because he's going to let me know when, how, and where. So
yeah, and that is so true. There's so many times for me in my life, and over the last 20 plus years in business, that I don't have the answer, and I don't know where it's going to go. Like right now, for me, I feel like I'm at a pivotal moment in my life, and what's the next chapter going to be? And, I've kind of dove into, this podcast, to CMG, Creative Media Group, and those are passionate things to me. And really I've kind of done those things all through my life, but just kind of over on the side and not really trying to make a business. Well, we're trying to make a business now.
Yeah.
And, having the ability to start to do that stuff. And at the core of that business for me is like, how can we do this and help people? And, what can I do as a marketer or advertiser, whatever you want to call it, to help a business excel? Mm-hmm. But, yeah, that's some good stuff, and you're right. When Scott said you're either an entrepreneur or you're not, that's kind of like a wake up call. And you got to really figure it out because, you know, I know Scott pretty good. We worked together for at least 7 years on a day-to-day basis. And he's a worker, man. And I found out, you know, that if you're going to accomplish something, you know, just because you own your own business or you start doing this, it doesn't mean it's just going to happen.
Right.
And a lot of people think that, oh man, they own their business, they're wealthy, or they're this, or they're whatever. No, you work a lot of hours.
Yeah.
And, you know, you work a lot of hours and you may still be struggling. But there's something about when you stay consistent and you begin to see the small steps, because, you know, every step matters. And even the small ones that you do from day to day add up.
Yeah.
So
they really do.
We're getting a train come by right now.
Yeah.
It's probably a little louder than it normally is because I got the studio door open over here.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll fix that in post.
And so one of the things I was also thinking about is, you know, there's a phrase in, you know, Christianity, stepping out in faith. And I think it's a good thing to do that. But sometimes you need wisdom and you need godly counsel. And looking back on my, you know, nonprofit venture, I should have relied more on person-to-person godly counsel, because I was listening to this well-known speaker, I was listening to that well-known speaker, but you really need godly counsel when you're stepping out and doing something that you've never done before. So I think that was a lesson learned for me.
So am I sensing here that you may be relaunching your nonprofit?
At some point, yes. I don't have a date. I'm still, you know, praying about that and waiting for the Lord to tell me, but yes. Because, you know, I have dreams about it sometimes. And when I wake up from those dreams, I wake up a little disappointed because I'm not operating where I need to be operating.
Yeah. I kind of get that, but I think it's interesting, you know, the kind of the core of this group of our team is me, you, and Cody, which Cody's lately been so busy with his nonprofit dream, Nehemiah's Gate. And he's just like really, it's taking a lot of his time right now, and he's passionate about that. And I think that's great, you know, to be able to have something that you're passionate about to help people. And so I'm proud of him for that.
Yeah, absolutely. When you told me about Nehemiah's Gate one day at church, I was really excited for him. Yeah. Yeah, really excited for him because it's what we need. A lot of people need the service that he's going to be providing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I won't talk a lot about it because I don't know a lot of the details on it, but I know that I've watched him pour his heart into it. Yes. And I know it's he's, you know, working his tail off to get that going, and that's great. I'm glad to see the successes of him on that. But let's talk a little bit about some of the possible things we got coming up. You know, we are in the works right now of doing the podcast at Praise in the Park that's coming up.
Yep.
That's going to be fun.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
I hope all that, you know, I've talked to the city about it. It looks like everything's golden on that. There's still some technical details we're going to work out. And, but that's something we're excited about. And what we're wanting to do is have maybe film a couple podcasts there on location, you know, so maybe in the back shot, you would see, you know, activities going up on the hillside or whatever. And we would just have our guests come in. We'd do our tape our show there. We're also going to make it available where the city of Massville could use our set to do their live announcements that they want to do on Facebook or YouTube or whatever platform they choose on that. So I'm looking forward to that.
I am. I'm looking forward to just getting out there so people can see who we are and that we're trying something new, and to encourage them to do that something new that they've never thought that they could possibly do, and just possibly creating networking opportunities for people, because when they see someone else doing something that is beneficial to the community, then perhaps they'd be inspired to do something that's beneficial for the community.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, talking about that, and I know we've had a few little, may not be realizing it yet on the podcast, but we've had some shifts in gears with us, and we've been trying to pivot a little bit to more local businesses and things like that. So we want to have a guest on that are entrepreneurs, because those guys are creative people, right? And it's beautiful to pick their brains and figure out what caused them to do what they're doing, what was the pivotal points that propelled them forward. Just to kind of learn those things. So that's something in the future that you're going to see more of with us, is bringing those folks on. And you may also see us going on location. That's something we've been talking a lot about lately. As a matter of fact, this shoot we're doing right now, we were going to do it on location, but there's been a tremendous amount of things going on at CMG and in my life this past few weeks that was a struggle. So we wasn't able to get on location today, but our very next shoot will be on location somewhere. So we may come in, if you're watching this podcast and you're a local business, I may be popping in at your business and say, hey, would you mind if we shot our podcast here on this day? I mean, you think local businesses will be receptive to that?
They would be. I think they would be. It'll be great advertising for their business. I think so.
Yeah. And so if you're a local business and you're watching, give me a call. Say, hey, we're willing. You can come out and set up in our showroom or set up in our dining room if it's a restaurant. And, it takes about probably total time invested. We generally do around a 30-minute episode, but by the time you go in, set up, by the time you tear down, you're probably going to be into an hour, hour and a half. So it's about an hour, hour and a half. But, in my mind, I'm thinking when we do that, let's just say, for example, we go to Business X and we set up and we bring on the business owner or the manager or whatever at that business. They are a guest with us right there. So we get the chance to talk about their business, pick their brain. And so that's kind of what's on our minds.
And I'd love to get their thoughts on how important it is to have financial stewardship and how that plays a role in being an entrepreneur and how you had to plan. Scripture says, count the cost. And so I'd love to pick their brains about that.
Absolutely. I can, you mentioned that earlier before we started recording. And, for me and my life, my personal finance, there were certain things that I did that really changed my financial destiny. And those things I've learned, I've now brought over into my business. And one of those is and this may be super elementary to businesses that are already going or whatever, and it's have an emergency fund. And because, I operated a lot of times young people, they just don't think like that. And, emergency funds setting over to the side whenever life happens can make the difference of you just crashing and burning or just being all worried or whatever because your air conditioner just went out and you don't have the money to replace it. But if you have that emergency fund set aside for when those things happen, because they will happen, you can live happier because it's a little bit of security there to fix something when it needs to be fixed. Now, it's not there to, I got an emergency fund over here and let's go out to, a $500 dinner or something. No, it's not that. It's to take care of things that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we both, kind of subscribe or listen to Dave Ramsey and the advice he gives. It comes out harsh, but it's very important advice. I think he says, live like no one else now so you can live like no one else in the future. I probably really butchered that, but
no, it's really close.
Yeah.
It's like live like no one else so later you can live like no one else.
Yeah. So sacrifice now so that when you get older, you can enjoy your hard work and everything that you've, invested into yourself and your business.
Well, and I totally get what you just said, but I'm going to take that a step further. If you're a young person out there and I personally seen immediate results almost immediately when I started being a more responsible person. I was, there were times in my life where I'll just be a little transparent here. I was a spoiled baby. I was young and I was mad because I didn't have this or that or whatever. When I finally started to mature and realize, hey, I don't have to have those things, and I started to be content and I started to do a little bit smarter things with my money. And it's amazing how things started to change immediately. I started getting into better jobs. I started making more money at the jobs. And if something happened at a job or if I decided to leave, I left for, in one scenario, twice the amount of money from one job to another. And then as those things started to grow, I could start to grow my emergency fund, and just having that there, knowing if something happened, it's just a great thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And just switching gears just for a little bit. I know, we talked about, scrolling and how when I was making my to-do list, I had to be mindful about how much time I spent scrolling because it does block creativity. I have felt so many times where have scrolled way too much, and the Holy Spirit had to get my attention because it felt like I was being sucked in deeper and deeper. And he just kind of had to jar me like, hey, you need to get away from this right now.
Yeah. So what are you doing about that? How are you, because, we talked about that a little bit and I told you, I don't think I'm going to air what I was telling you, but what is, what's your plan of attack on that?
So
what are you thinking?
My plan of attack is to limit myself, give myself so much time on YouTube because YouTube is my favorite platform of choice. I'm not into TikTok, not, into Facebook, but YouTube really sucks me in. So just allotting maybe 1 or 2 hours for that and then maybe 1 or 2 hours for Netflix as well.
Yeah. I get it. So in my business, we do a lot of work for primarily equipment dealers around the U.S. And we create what we call ad sets for them. They're basically advertisements that we post across social media platforms for them.
Yeah.
And so that in itself causes me to be scrolling a lot because I want to, when we post for these guys, I want to make sure that stuff is coming across. I want to make sure I like to see the results of, is it getting traction? How is it being receptive? And I'm like, okay, now at the same time, I'm thinking, man, I was having a conversation with my wife the other day. I'm considering putting this down for some time, and how can I make that happen? And that's about all I'm going to say about that. I don't want to commit to something because
then Serena somebody will have to hold you accountable.
Serena's over here at the switcher, and we're trying to get her on camera, but she just won't do it. So
one day, you guys.
One day.
Yeah. So with, the free time that I have from not being on social media, I'm investing in some of my hobbies. I'm learning a new language. I'm trying to learn Korean. So hopefully that goes well. I was supposed to have learned it by now, but because I've spent this past year scrolling too much, I haven't learned it the way that I should, but that's my goal.
Well, I have to ask, why Korean?
So my aunt, she's from Korea.
Okay.
And when I was younger, whenever they would come for visits, she would sit on the porch and she would braid my cousin's hair and she would sing songs in Korean. So I've always been interested in learning Korean. And plus I like watching K-drama and I like BTS. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Korean, I would think, maybe Spanish. I could see that, but Korean.
Yeah.
But that's funny. I used to work, really one of my first jobs that I had. It's probably my first real job, I guess. Whenever I was a teenager in high school, I worked some with on a farm a little bit, cutting tobacco, spraying tobacco, doing whatever, things like that. I don't consider that really a real job. But that was, it was doing something until the day that the farmer told me and another guy that was working there too, that there was a sick cow that they had pinned up in the barn, and he wasn't lying. From what I've found out, that when a cow gets sick, they bring them away from the other cows, right? It makes sense. You don't want to get them sick. You put them in a stall or somewhere, and that's where they stay until they get better. Well, somebody has to go in there and clean that out. And it's crazy that I got on this story, but anyway, me and this other guy, that was working there with me, we went to, our job was to go clean this stall out.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically rubber boots on, a shovel, and we go in there, and I get to that doorway. Maybe this will be motivational for somebody, but I get to the doorway, and he hops right in.
Mm-hmm.
And I kid you not, it's about that deep.
Mm.
And the smell is like, and that day I said, I'm not cut out for this. And that Serena's over there laughing, and my daughter's in the studio too. She's laughing. And I said, no, that's not me. And from that point, I was kind of like, no. But anyway, I completely sidetracked. I was going to tell you about the first real job. I worked in at a hotel, and there was some Korean folks that worked with me, and they were super nice people. Still friends to them today.
Yeah.
And but they would come in with kimchi. And they would throw kimchi in the microwave and warm it up, and it would basically, you could smell it through the whole hotel.
Yeah. Yeah. And store-bought kimchi, if you get kimchi at Walmart or Kroger, it's not the best. My aunt's kimchi, it's really good. I love it.
Really?
Yeah. And she has the best hospitality, I think, out of all of our family members. Her hospitality is the best.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I know they always try to get me to try kimchi, and I'm like, no.
It's good for your gut.
I mean, I just never knew what it was,
It's fermented cabbage.
Well, it was that, but they would bring in like all different kinds of kimchi. Like today it might be watermelon kimchi or whatever kimchi. And I'm like, no, I'm not trying that.
You might want to try it now.
Maybe I would now, but I was so young then, and it was when I was still a little baby, and I wouldn't try things. You know how babies are.
Yeah.
They won't try something new, but anyway, I'll probably try it now. So what else you got on there, Kacie?
Well, something personal. I've been sleeping a lot better for these past few days because I've had a lot of worry. I have a young adult son, and I'll just say it. Sometimes he stresses me out, but I was, in prayer. And one of the things the Lord said to me was, your peace is not contingent on what your son does or not does. Your peace is contingent on Jesus Christ because he is the Prince of Peace.
Yeah. Serena's over there shaking.
Yeah.
You're absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He has a lot of potential. He just doesn't see it yet. And I'm, still praying and believing it's going to happen one day. But, for these past, I'll just go ahead and say it, 20 years, I haven't slept well. But I'm sleeping well now because I'm choosing to.
Right.
Yeah. So all you parents out there, give it to the Lord, leave it there, pray and believe. One of the things that Pastor Allison says at church, speak to their potential. So even when you don't see it, just go ahead and speak it anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the other day, maybe it's a week ago, when he came in the studio, or we were there working, and I talked to him for a little bit, and it's been a while since I've seen him. I'm like, hey, buddy, I've been messing you around here. We need to get him involved in some way. I'd love to get him involved in, what we're doing here in sub capacity, because he does have a lot of potential.
Yeah. I've invited him.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if you're watching, I don't know if you want me to say his name or not.
But you're all right.
Preston, you need to get over here to the studio. We can use you, man. But no, he's a good guy. But so I don't know, what is our time looking like, Serena? Do you know? 23. So we'll wrap up here in a few minutes. Okay. But is there anything else you can think of that?
My writing. So you guys know that I wrote the book Penelope, but Penelope, she was a character in another story.
Okay.
So I've gone back to that story, and it's actually not going to be a book. I've decided it's going to be something similar to like radio dinner theater, because I feel like the characters need to be spoken out and not just read. So I've gotten back into writing that story. I had Preston read it the other day to try to help me, because I've got a creative block right now. So I'm not sure how to continue it, but keep.
All right. Now you got to raise your question with me.
Okay.
2 questions.
Okay.
One, we'll ask about the writer's block, the creativity block. have you been able to identify what hours of the day, or does your creativity generally come at certain times?
It's sporadic.
Is it?
Yeah, it's not really in the morning or in the afternoon. It's just really sporadic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I finally figured out that I'm most creative in the early mornings, and not this morning because I slept a little bit late. Mariah was up, and she's here in the studio now, but she lives in Alabama, and she's up visiting us, and so I get up and I look out the back window, and she's sitting by the pool, having her coffee, reading a book. Yeah. But the second one, what is radio theater? I mean, I don't know exactly what that is, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers don't.
Yeah, it's really old school. It's where you have people acting, but you don't see them. You're basically listening to what they're doing. So it's radio acting, basically.
Radio acting.
So before TV ever came about, there were people who did radio, and they were acting out, a script.
So is this something you watch?
Nope, you don't watch it. You listen to it.
You just listen to it. Is it different voices?
Different voices. So you have characters and they're acting.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's.
You guys should check out Adventures in Odyssey. You have little boys? You have sons? Yeah. So Adventures in Odyssey, check out who they are. So it's similar to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So everybody check out Adventures in Odyssey. It's through Focus of the Family. So it's something similar to that.
Okay, yeah. Cool. I'll try to check that out, or maybe I'll just let Mariah check it out, and she can tell me.
It's really good for long trips. Yeah, whenever you drive and you have a long trip, it's really good for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so we'll wrap here in a second, and I think once again, if there's some businesses out there, business owners that would like to allow us to come and do on location, reach out to us. Just want to put that out there. I'm going to start very soon approaching some about that, just so we can get that done. Because you know what? There are a lot of businesses out there. There's a lot of people out there that want to do podcasts.
Yeah.
And, and they're afraid to take the plunge to do it, as we were. And, but we did it. And it takes some work. It takes some commitment, and you have to keep going. I think we're into episode, where are we at? We're about 18 probably.
Maybe, yeah.
We're somewhere around 18, 19. You got to stay after it. One of the important things that we've learned is that you've got to create some shorts, because you'll do your 30-minute broadcast or your 30-minute episode or whatever it is. And you can pop that in on YouTube or whatever platforms you want to go to, and they'll get some traction. But the shorts, when you go make the shorts out of the long form into the short form, that's where you'll start to really get the traction and start to get momentum to build it. But I've noticed other podcasts kind of popped up. There's some popping up after we started. But what I was getting at, it's not that hard. And we've got quite a bit of equipment, but it's just because I've accumulated equipment and stuff like that through a lot of things that I've done. But we're going to go out on these remotes, and we're going to go in like a super simple technical format. Just one computer, a switcher, 3 cameras, and some wireless mics. And it's going to be a setup where we're going to go in, probably set up in 30 minutes and be ready could broadcast, but we like to tape. So that's one of the things that we're going to start doing right away. Wanted to do this one that way today, but just wasn't able to pull it off.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're probably 30 minutes in now, Serena.
Any questions from our live studio audience?
Yeah. I would also like to add that if you want to come in and be a part of the studio audience, we've got 4 seats. We got a tiny studio, but we do have 4 seats. If somebody wanted to come and sit in, if you're thinking about doing a podcast, you want to come over, reach out to us and get a walkthrough of what we're doing and anything like that. That's one thing we do. We love to help people, don't we?
We do. We really do.
We love to help people. We love to help churches on their tech tech things. As a matter of fact, this past week, I've had a couple different calls from churches on some different tech things, and we love to go in and help them analyze what's going on, because a lot of small churches, they go and get not decent audio systems and then but nobody knows how to work it right, and it gradually gets out of the settings, and they need somebody to come in and help them reel that back together, and maybe even have some courses with them on some fundamentals on how to set up a microphone, fundamentals on how to mic things, or how to adjust vocals or EQs, compressors, all of that. So that's one thing that we're kind of doing. As a matter of fact, I'm connected with a church right now. We're going to start helping them, and we're going to get their audio cleaned up first, but they want to go onto live stream. They want to do that, and then I'm going to incorporate you on this, if you will, with me, to get their ATEM switcher set up, or either get into another switcher, get some multi-camera going. Because ultimately, even with your church, when you're going to, I know I've sidetracked on something else, and I'm going over time, but I want to share this just so that, if there are churches out there that want to reach out to us, that's a service we offer. But even we were talking about our podcast that's 30 minutes long, and it's not getting the traction. In this church I was talking to this week, they were doing live stream and it wasn't getting traction. Well, there's a few reasons for that. One is their audio was horrible, and that's not my words, that's theirs. They told me. So we're going to fix that. We're going to get them better audio. So they've paused their live feed because the audio was so bad. And I think that's a pretty good idea. Let's get the audio fixed. Let's get that right so that it comes to the live stream a much better way, because one thing about going live on YouTube or even taping, if you're not giving good audio, people are not going to watch. I mean, your video could be, not the greatest, but your audio has to be good, because a lot of people are going to listen to that when they're traveling. So what I'm getting at, and I took the long way around, even if you're a church and you're producing a live stream every Sunday of your service, and you're getting views on it, but not very many views, one thing that can just radically change that is breaking that service up into reels. You kind of have to do that. That's a service that we offer. And if you're a church and you have a library already on YouTube, we could go into that and start breaking that down into reels and really increase the viewership on your channel. No doubt.
Reels are great. I really like them. But, this generation, that's what they're into.
That's it.
That's what they're into. So if you want to, invest in the next generation, just start out doing some reels just to get them in the door. Because that's the ultimate goal. Get them in the door and make them a part of the community.
Right. That's it. And, okay, Kacie, we'll wrap it up now. Serena's already looked at me a couple times.
Sorry, Serena.
But, hey, folks, please go ahead and like and subscribe to Creative Side Podcast. It really helps us a lot. We're trying to build the channel. We're learning as we go, and as we're learning, we're telling you. So be sure to tune in future podcasts. If you'll subscribe and hit the bell on YouTube, you'll get notifications. Until next time, we'll see you.